Okay, we are doing a video answer key for EnVision 6.5. How can you find percents? We can change the decimal by moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. An example would equal 18%. Describe the equation you use to find an unknown part in a percent problem. So think about your grades, right? If you got an 18 out of 20, what would you do to find that percent? So there's a couple things you could do here. We could take, it's an unknown part, so this is now the unknown. This is x. So x divided by 20 would equal our percent. So I know what that percent is. It's going to be 18 times 5. So I know this is going to be a 90%. So that would be 0.9. So this is what we would already have. In order to find this, we would say our inverse operation is to multiply both sides by 20. We do have calculator. Okay. So we would say 9/10 times 20 would give us 18. So this, I knew what this was. So the problem that would have been given is x divided by 20 equals 9/10. How would we do that? We do the inverse operation. Here we're dividing by 20, so I multiplied both sides of that equation by 20, and we end up with 18. So my answer is really to multiply by the whole. Describe the equation you would use to find a percent value in a percent problem. So again, we can come back to here. If we're finding the percent, we already know this. So really, we can divide part by the whole in order to do that. Be precise. In the expression 34% of 60, what operation does the word of mean? Now, it's not asking for me to solve it. It's just saying, what's this telling me to do? In order to solve it, I would have changed this percent into a decimal and multiplied it by 60. So that word of really means to multiply. How can you use a calculator to find what percent of 180 is 108? So what percent? This is an unknown percent. So if you think about it, if these are your grades, like you took a test that was worth 180, you got 108 correct, and you want to know what the percent is. So in the calculator, I'm going to type 108 divided by 180. Oh. 108 divided by 180 is 0.6 or 6/10. And then we have to take that 6/10 and swoop that over twice because it's out of 100. So it is a 60%. Does that make sense? 50% would be 90 out of 180. And this is a little more than that, so that makes sense. So in our calculator, we would divide. All right, let's keep going. What is 26% of 50? So I know that 26% is 26/100ths. Of means to multiply. I am giving you the okay for a calculator in this section, so we're going to type in 26/100ths times 50, and we're going to get number 13. Does that make sense? Well, 50% is going to be 25, and half of that is around 12. That would be about 25%, so 13 sounds about right. 2 1/10% of 60, 2 1/10%. Well, I know that 1% is going to be 6. So my answer here should be around 12. No, it's 6/10. My 1%, 10% would be 6. So 1% is going to be around 6/10. And so I think my answer is going to be around 1 2/10. I'm going to change this into a decimal. This is the biggest mistake that we see students make here. 21/100ths times 60 equals 1.26, or 1 26/100ths. Very, very close to my estimate. We're in good shape. So part of the reason why we taught you this, or that 1%, 10%, is so that you can estimate and make sure your answer makes sense. If you had made a mistake here and done 21% of 60, like I did originally, I would have gotten around 12. That's way too high for something that's this small. What percent of 315 is 26? So notice what they've done here is they've substituted a question here. What percent? They don't give you this. So this becomes our variable. We'll call it a variable P. So we took this percent and we multiplied it by the number we knew, and we got this. Is means equals, right? Of means to multiply, and 315. So really what I'm doing is I'm taking this sentence and I'm kind of translating it. So P is my unknown. P times 315 equals 126. Well, in order to solve this, we have to do our inverse operation. We could take, this is multiplication, so the inverse operation is to divide. So we're going to take this entire thing, which could be written as 315p. That's our no symbol form of multiplication. We're going to divide both sides by 315. So 126, I'm going to take this into my calculator, divided by 315, and that gives me 4/10. So P equals 4/10. Now that's not my percent. I have to change it into a percent. So my answer here is 40%. I can check that by saying, is 4/10 times 315 going to give me 126? Yes, it is. Okay, it's a good way to check. What percent? So again, P of meaning times 120 is 28 8/10. So I'm going to solve this the same way by dividing both sides. That's the inverse operation that's going over here. We want to isolate the variable that goes all the way back, oh boy, to topic four, I think, where we talked about inverse operations. We're going to divide by 120 and divide by 120. 28 8/10 divided by 120 is going to give me 24/100. That's not my final answer because they want the percent, so percent is 24%. Okay, that's the answer for number 9. Electronic company has 450 employees. The company plans to increase its staff by 30%. How many new employees will the company hire? So it's really 30% of this is what they're going to have total. It's not asking me to go back and add that 30% in there. So it's going to be a smaller number. I know that 10% would be 45. So 30%, here I'm solving it with 1 and 10%. So 10% is 45 of the company. So 10% of its employees is 45. If I multiply that by 3, I should get 30%, which was 135 new employees. That's not the only way to solve it. Most adults would say, well, I want to do 450, and I want to multiply that by 3/10. If I put that into my calculator, I'm going to get 135 employees as well. Do you have to solve it twice? No, but I do want to point out that that 1%, 10% lesson still is kind of in play here, and this was a lot faster for me. Let's do the last one here. The original price of a computer game is $45. The price is marked down by 18. What percent of the original price is the markdown? So this is the missing percent. So if we took the original price, $45, and we multiplied it by that percent, which is what we were doing up here. So if this was an original price and we multiplied it by this percent, we would get a discount. So down here, we're still doing the same thing, original price times the unknown percent, and that's going to equal 18. That sets up an equation for us. We can write it with the no symbol form of multiplication if we want. We're going to do the inverse operation. If this is to multiply, we want to divide. We're using that fraction bar. 18 divided by 45, which gives us 4/10. They don't want it in decimal form. They want it as a percent because they say that right here. So my final answer is it's a 40% markdown. Okay, I'm going to do the next 3 at the top, and then I'm going to break the answer key into another piece. All right, so they're giving us some blanks that we're going to need to fill in. What is 5% of 210? So they've already translated the of into the multiplication system and brought the multiplication sign and brought down the 210. So we want to take that 5%, we want to change it to its decimal form. And this is an error alert. Many students want to change that into this. Remember that that is 50%. Don't confuse 5% and 50%. Now we can take our calculator and we can put in 5/100 times 210, which is 10 and 5/10. Does it make sense? Well, if 10% is 21 and 1% is 2 and 1/10, so you need about 10. You need about 5 of these, right? 5 times 2 is 10. There you go. It's the same idea. What is 8.2% of 500? So they took the 500 down, the of comes down. We're writing an equation. They're saying, find me this answer. This answer equals. Now, a lot of times on the prior one, I was writing it like this. This is a different equation. This is the same equation, so I guess I should have used x here. You could put that equals x on the right. You could put that equals x on the left. It really still means the same thing. Don't be afraid by the side that they put it on. Times 541. All right, one more. So you're going to see a lot of these from the Math Excel as well. We were filling in the blanks. What percent? So that's the unknown of, meaning to multiply, and here they're using the raised dot, 32 is 5 6/10. So this isn't a percent. I don't have to do any swooping here. So here they said x equals, and here they've put the equals over here. It does not matter what side you end up putting on, you end up solving it the same way. So the operation that's going on here is multiplication, and they've now rewritten it with a coefficient and the no symbol form of multiplication. And so we haven't really done anything here other than use a different symbol for multiplication. Now, this is showing that inverse operation of division. So if this is to multiply, we want to divide by that coefficient. And we want to do that to both sides in order to balance the equation. So 5 6/10 was already over here. We're dividing it by 32. I'm going to take my calculator. 5 6/10 divided by 32. I'm going to get a really long decimal. Well, not really long, 175 thousandths, which we are going to change into 17 and 5/10. Now remember, all the digits are made in the same order. They just have that decimal move over twice. What is 35% of 10? So 35%, oops, 35% of 10. And take your calculator. Oops. 3 5/10. Some of you can do this mentally. 3 5/10. What percent? So this is a missing percent. This is where you got to get your bunny ears up. That's P times 75 means equals 33. So here kind of relates it back to question number 14 where they set this up. You can see this pattern develop here, and you can use that pattern to help you. I'm going to rewrite it as 75 times P equals 33. I'm going to do the inverse operation. If this is multiplication, I'm going to divide. P equals, I'm going to use my calculator for that. 33 divided by 75. It gives me 44 hundredths, and they want it as a percent, so I'm going to rewrite it as P equals 44%. Last one for this video. What is 2 25% of 24? So I'm going to change this to a decimal. 225. So if it was 2%, I know it would be 0.02. So these digits just come right after it. Of, meaning to multiply, 24. And if I was writing it as an equation, I would say equals x. So this is related back to 12 and 13. And again, thank goodness I have my calculator. It's going to make things go so much faster. So that gives me 54 hundredths. equals X. And I'm staring at that because I'm like, man, that's a really low number and it feels like a percent. They're not asking me for a percent. So let's see if this makes sense. I'm going to use 1% and 10%. If 10% is 2 4/10, then 1% would be 24 hundredths. So 2% would double this, which would be 48 hundredths, and then it'd be a little bit more. So yeah, I'm getting a number that's less than 1. This actually does make a lot of sense. And this is my estimation piece to kind of go, is this correct? I'm not changing that to 54%. They're not asking for a percent here. The next video will have the rest of the key.